Hi, I'm Extreme Meteorologist Reed Timmer with tvnweather.com, and this is our first ever daily weathercast. And we decided to offer more on tvnweather.com in addition to just coverage of extreme weather, streaming live video, driving into tornadoes. But I wake up, the first thing I think about is weather. The last thing I think about when I go to bed is weather. And if I sleep, I'm looking at models. And I think this is just a good way to help people educate, is to help people keep abreast of severe weather that's coming in. I can talk about the science of what's happening. And the plan is to do these every day, launch them on my Facebook fan page, and then eventually transition these over to tvnweather.com. And it's just another source of weather information that not only weather enthusiasts can use, but also just anybody that's planning something outdoors and want to know if rain or something is going to rain it out, or if there's a wedding and you want to know long-term forecast, short-term forecast, severe weather, anything. When I can't chase storms, I love talking about it, and this is just the beginning. And it took me a while to get this whole system set up, so that's why I launched it in the afternoon. But in the future, I'll be launching these in the morning, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'm not a blue screen kind of guy. I like to be out in the field. I'm a little rough around the edges. I love the science. I love driving into tornadoes. But I also love looking at the models, and I love the forecasting aspect of it. And so this is the first of many daily weathercasts to come from tvnweather.com. And I wanted to start off, the biggest news that we've had recently was that huge California storm system that slammed the Sierra Nevadas and points further northeast. They had over 200 inches of snow on the top of Mount Shasta, 115 mile per hour winds. So if you can imagine chasing that on snowmobile, streaming it live, I mean, that'd be pretty amazing. That's the future of TVN, but very dangerous as well. But there's also over a foot of rain causing deadly mudslides off these mountains. And it was a very dangerous storm system, and it was very powerful. It was almost like a hurricane spinning off the west coast. But because of the pattern that we're in, that storm system sheared out and lifted up and weakened as it moved up into Canada. But we still have a little bit of moisture. There's still a stream of moisture, that Pineapple Express, as it's been called. And that moisture is slamming into the mountains, the northern Rockies. And right now, there are winter storm warnings in effect in the western Wyoming. The heaviest snowfall will fall from just east of West Yellowstone down to Jackson Hole. So all you ski buffs up there, the snow is coming. They're getting 1 to 2 feet at the higher elevations. There is a lot of warm air in this system, however, though. So, I mean, you have to go way up high to get some good skiing, and you might have to improvise a little bit, maybe do some hiking and ski some of that backcountry powder. But it's wet snow, too. But the cold air is on the way, and I'll talk a little bit more about the long range and pattern shifts and all the crazy weather, why it's been happening, and will we get that snow down in the Colorado Rockies so we can start ski season and start chasing winter storms by ski with a headset, streaming live video, who knows. But I just enjoy talking about the forecast, and this is just the beginning, and I'll get better at it. I'm not a blue screen kind of guy, as you know, as I mentioned, but I guess a green screen applies here. But anyway, these are the winter storm warnings right now in northwest Wyoming, and I expect 1 to 2 feet above 6,000 in elevation, and a lot of that has fallen already. This is about the only area that's experiencing significant winter storm conditions right now. This is what's left over of that California system that's shearing out. But there's a lot of warm air still getting ingested in this system. We haven't had that cold air come down from Canada yet, and I'll talk about that as well. And this image right here is near Teton. It's in the valley, and you can see here there's a lot of rain. The warm air has not allowed this to change over to snow, but you can see up in the mountains there is some wet snow up there. But then you move over to Teton Pass, and the road conditions here are almost impassable. I'd recommend chains driving through there. You can see that it's very treacherous in those mountains, those mountain roads. So be very careful out there if you're trying to go out there and ski. But there is a lot of mountain snows around Jackson Hole, and that's one of my favorite places to ski. It's amazing. If you haven't been there, highly recommend it. But there's another winter storm on the horizon as well. And this is going to start affecting the area Sunday through Monday. It's not going to be a very strong system. There's not a lot of cold air on the backside because that cold air is still sitting up in Canada. But this is the trough of low pressure at 500 millibars, which is that river of air just above, high up in the atmosphere where planes fly. And it's that river of air, the jet stream, that causes our storm systems. This jet stream was responsible for Hurricane Sandy, obviously a different, very rare pattern. This is much more conventional. But you don't need to worry about a strong nor'easter on the East Coast because this system right here, this trough of low pressure, amplified very early, and it's a little bit further west. And what we call this is a textbook Colorado low setup. So the low pressure system forms near Colorado, moves northeast toward the Great Lakes, and these are the storm systems that dump snow on areas like Iowa, populated areas like Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, into Ontario. But it's not going to be bad. It'll be a 2 to 4 inch, 3 to 6 inch, 4 to 8 inch snowfall. It'll be a very wet snowfall. There's not a lot of cold air wrapping around the backside of the system, so you don't have a really strong surface low. And you can see that here. This is a temperature plot, and this is for Monday. And on Sunday, the snow should get started in Kansas. You'll probably get a couple of inches. And you can see this is a temperature map. So you see all this warm, moist air getting pumped northward from the Gulf of Mexico. Those oranges are temperatures in the 70s, the yellow, 50s and 60s. And all that warm, moist air is getting pumped up into the system. But on the backside, you only have those light blues, and those are borderline freezing conditions. There's a fine line between a cold rain and a heavy wet snow. And in this case, there could be, even a few miles could separate the distance between a 33-degree rain and 31 degrees in heavy snow. And when you get very heavy precipitation, sometimes it can turn that 33-degree rain into snow because of a process called dynamical cooling. Those very heavy rain will cool the atmosphere sufficiently to get snow. And in that area, in the black square in the backside of the system, that's the deformation zone or the wraparound around that low pressure that's centered over northern Indiana. And in that area from Wyoming across southern Michigan, my mom lives in Grand Rapids, so she could get some snow out of this. Hopefully get some pictures I can post. But it shouldn't be major. The snow is going to be heavy, though, so there could be some limbs down, a few power outages, but just a 3 to 6 inch snow. It's going to be one of those ugly snows. The plows will come through. The salt will be in there. There'll be the brown piles, and it's not going to be the most beautiful snowfall in the world, but more of a nuisance. But the good news is that this system is maturing a little bit further west. And if I can go back to that first slide, this right here is the water vapor image that shows the whole continental U.S., southern Canada. And you can see this little, very weak, subtle low in the southern stream down to the Gulf of Mexico. And as that moves northeast, if the phasing was right and that trough was more progressive and it didn't dig as deep and it wasn't as slow moving, there's a very good chance that could have moved east, caused that coastal low to intensify and move up the Gulf Stream. If that cold Canadian air that's way up in Canada would surge south of the stronger low pressure system, we could have had a major nor'easter in the northeast, and they need a break up there after Superstorm Sandy. And I'll tell you why that's not going to happen also. I'll show you some climate indicators on why we're not going to get that nor'easter, but I'll also show you in the long term that the pattern could change, and we could get more extreme weather. Winter could make a return, but given all the warmth in the U.S. and the lack of winter storms, to the exception of western Wyoming, I wore my special shirt. It's the Make It Rain shirt. The hydrological cycle is on here. But things are going to change. I might have to wear my snowmobile suit or something later on for the next cast. But these TVN WeatherCasts I'm going to launch every single day. And it's just another outlet that you can check out for weather. And I know a lot of people don't trust your local meteorologist or the meteorologist on television. I've heard a lot of statements like in Oklahoma where they're like, you're one of those people that get paid for being wrong. But, weather's a young science, and I admit I've been wrong a lot of times, but I look at these models from the second I wake up until the second I go to bed, and give it everything I have. It's all I think about. And I think that you might be able to find your most accurate forecast here at tvnweather.com. And the plan is to launch these every morning on my Facebook fan page. That's facebook.com/readtimmertvn. I'll put them on my Twitter account, twitter.com/readtimmertvn, so you can also access them there. But these will be moved over to tvnweather.com eventually. And now moving on. Right here is this trough of low pressure that's responsible for a potential snowstorm that's going to be moving toward the Great Lakes. This is different than that system that hammered California. You may remember parts of Mount Shasta had over 200 inches of snow. There was over a foot of snow in some of the lower elevations with deadly mudslides. And what's left of that system now is it's kind of sheared out. And that's because of this pattern regime that we're in, where the troughs don't intensify. They'll come in very strong in the West Coast, dump a lot of snow in the mountains, Sierra Nevadas northward, a lot of rain, and then they shear out. And that's what happened. But what's left over of that system is in Wyoming. And here you can see there are winter storm warnings in western Wyoming right now. The heaviest snow, where there could be 1 to 2 feet, is going to fall just east of West Yellowstone down to Jackson Hole. And that's good for skiing, but the snow levels are still pretty high. So, I mean, you'd probably have to improvise and do some hiking and get up there and ski some backcountry. But the cold air is coming, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the long-range forecast that I'll touch on at the end of this. And this picture right here is from the Teton, the Grand Teton area, but it's in a valley. And you can see they're getting a lot of rain. There's a little bit of wet snow in the mountains. But then you go up higher up in elevation, and Teton Pass is getting hammered. I mean, the road conditions are terrible. I'd recommend chains to get through this area. These guys are probably diehard skiers, but if they don't have chains and they don't get out of there soon, I mean, who knows? They may have to spend the night in a snow cave, but I bet if we had the Dominator up there, it'd be like a snowplow pretty much. But one of these days, we're going to start chasing these big-time mountain snowstorms and maybe ski and stream live from our helmet cams. And this right here is a forecast map that shows that Colorado low I was talking about from this trough right here. So this is the trough of low pressure. And this is a very high amplitude trough. It's further west, which is a good thing for the Northeast. But it is going to cause some snow. But the problem is, if for all you snow lovers, is that all this cold air up in Canada, see all those purples up there? That's hanging up near Hudson Bay, and that's not surging south just yet. I think that's going to change. But on the backside of this storm system, this Colorado low that's going to track from the southern plains up toward the Great Lakes, you can see the orange, the yellows, all that moisture pumping northward and then feeding this system. But on the backside, you normally expect much colder temperatures, but this surface low is relatively weak, so it's not pulling this cold air down southward. And so we're getting a wet snow on the backside. It's probably going to be a 2 to 4 inch type thing, a 3 to 6 inch snowfall, maybe 4 to 8 in some of those more intense mesoscale bands stretching from Iowa through the southern Great Lakes, including the Chicago area. But it's been so warm that the road conditions shouldn't be too bad. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of cold air coming down behind it, so they won't ice over, but it's going to be more of a nuisance. And if I stretch forward, this is the cumulative precipitation by Monday night. And the area in black there shows the frozen precipitation. That shows the snow, the heaviest snowfall in the blue swath there. And so you could easily get 4 to 8 inches of snow from southeast Iowa through lower central Michigan and up into parts of Ontario. And south of there, you see the purples in the Ohio River Valley. That's going to be rain, and very heavy rain. And the models right now are indicating 1 to 2 inches there. You're also going to get some rain in the south, the southern U.S. Those are drought-stricken areas, so you need the rain down there. And the tornado threat looks very minimal. So I think that this will be a good rain for us. It'll be a good thing, and that's why I'm wearing my shirt, Make It Rain, the hydrological cycle. Next time, I'll wear a Make It Snow shirt right around Christmas. But what is going to prevent a nor'easter from forming, and this map right here shows it. This is later on early next week, so Monday, Tuesday or so. This system is going to lift northeast, and you can see this 980 millibars. And when you get these really intense nor'easters, sometimes they can be 950, 960 millibars. They're fueled by all this warmth. You can see the 70-degree temperatures in the Gulf Stream and the Atlantic. You see the cold air in the backside, and you see that temperature gradient. But when you get a really strong nor'easter, you get these purples and really cold air that surges south, and you get an even stronger temperature gradient. And that causes bomb cyclogenesis. That causes these low pressure systems to just blow up, and you get hurricane force winds, you get storm surges, you get 2-3 feet of snow on the backside. But this is going to be different. This is a breath of fresh air for New England in the Northeast. It is going to be a nuisance. There's going to be rain, but it's not going to be catastrophic. It might hamper some of the recovery efforts, and that's about one of the only negative things. And what makes this not be a big nor'easter snowstorm is you see all this warm air pumping up ahead of the system as far north as New England and even southern Canada. And you're going to be hard-pressed to even find snow at the top of Mount Washington or even some of the ski resorts in Killington in that area. And you can see even on the backside, you just have those light blues. That's right around freezing, so you're not going to get that really cold air going over the Great Lakes. There probably won't be much in the way of lake effect except in Lake Superior, where that Arctic air is starting to impinge on those warm waters. But that's not necessarily a good thing because the lakes are staying warm. They're abnormally warm. And once this cold air surges down from Canada, that's going to move over those warm waters. And it could be a pretty prolific lake effect season. And that's more evidence, too, by this map. You can see the cold air up in Canada. You've got conditions well below freezing. And all it's going to take is one big storm system, a nor'easter, a powerful Colorado low, something that's much more powerful than we're seeing this week. And that's going to surge south, that cold air. And winter's going to get started in earnest. We're going to start getting snow in the Colorado Rockies for you ski buffs. But that also means we're going to enhance the temperature gradient across the U.S. And when you enhance that temperature gradient, that means stronger storm systems. That cold air will be closer to the Gulf Stream, and with El Nino in place, you're going to get subtle storm systems like I talked about earlier that'll move up the coast and be those nor'easters. And here's something that'll help determine the long-term forecast. You can see this is a time series of the NAO, or North Atlantic Oscillation. And the North Atlantic Oscillation acts like a dam in the Atlantic, basically. That's how I like to look at it. You have the river aloft, which is the jet stream with troughs and ridges, and that dictates our weather. And when the NAO is negative, that means that the dam is closed, and you get buckling in the jet stream. You get these big, strong troughs of low pressure. You get the big ridges. You get very stagnant patterns. And as you can see here around Halloween, we had a very strong and prolonged negative NAO, and it's not a coincidence that that happened at the same time as Superstorm Sandy. You had a blocking high, you had a stagnant upper level pattern in the jet stream, and it basically created the perfect storm. Then you have an area of kind of quiet conditions, and when you have this positive or neutral NAO there, that's when you just get the river flowing across with very subtle troughs and ridges, and you don't get that extreme weather. But the red here is the forecast. That's an ensemble forecast of the NAO, and you can see that it is forecast to go strongly negative in mid-December. And I think by that time we're going to have extremely cold air coming down from Canada. We're going to get buckling in the jet stream. We'll get nor'easters. We're going to get major snowstorms. And that's why we're heading up to Saskatchewan this week to rig our snowmobile to live stream so we can stream live these intense blizzards and snowstorms and show you the extreme conditions that are happening across North America. And this is just the first podcast. This is just the first WeatherCast, and our plan is to expand worldwide. We'll start covering weather in Australia. We'll start covering weather in Europe. And my plan is to do these every morning. I got a little late start because I had to get everything set up and working perfectly. And now that I've got the system, my plan is to do these every single morning, and I hope I can help you guys, dominate the storm. And if it's not a storm, if it's just temperature or rain, you can always change plans and don't let weather hamper your happiness. So never stop chasing. And I hope all you have enjoyed our Tornado Chaser series. We just released episode 10 today. So the more that you purchase those series, the more you support us, and the more I can do projects like this with these weathercasts. And this is just the beginning, and we'll continue to improve things at tvnweather.com. So never stop chasing.